Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Yevamos Chaf Gimel. We are up to Chaf Beis Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. We had a pasuk discussing the erva of Achoisoi, one's sister, with whom he may not interact with as married. Now, the pasuk speaks about the erva of Bas Eishes Avicha, sister being described as the daughter of your father's wife. Rabbanan learned from here that a sister can have two isurim, A, sister, and B, daughter of his father's wife. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. The isur is limited to achaisoi. That's the only isur involved. The pasuk, which describes her as Bas Eishes Avicha, is indicating to us sister is only considered sister if she was born to somebody that his father can theoretically marry, as opposed to a shivcha or a yavedis kechavim. A daughter hailing from that type of relationship is not considered his offspring and is not considered your sister. Asks the Gemara, how do you know that it's directed at a shivcha, yavedis kechavim? Perhaps ve'ema prat lachoyse me'anusa. Suppose he has a sister from an isha that his father was involved with in a non-marital situation. It was anusa, a forced relationship. Perhaps that child doesn't relate back to her father and doesn't relate to you as a sister. Hahiloi matas amers, you can't direct the pasuk at that situation. Even a child from such a relationship is considered a relative. Midirava, as Rava pointed out, the Rava had a seeming contradiction. Ksiv, in one pasuk we have Ervas bas bincha, oy bas bitcha lesigala. Don't interact with your grandchildren because it's your descendant. Your offspring is considered an erva. We make a diyag. Ha bas bina dida. It's his wife's grandchild. Ubas bita dida. Sure, his wife's grandchildren are considered arayis to him. That's one pasuk. Only your offspring, not your wife's. Uksiv. In pasuk number 2 we have Ervas isho bita loisegala. Even your wife's children are considered arayis to you, as bas bana, as bas bita. So how does this work? Okay, so how do we work this out? Kan ba'intzin. If this isha is just an anusa, in the process of a forced relationship, it's not a proper wife. In that case, if it's your offspring from an anusa, it's considered your kids. But if it's only the other isha, the isha with whom he had an oinus relationship, her kids are not related to you. Kam ben asun, but if it's a proper wife through marriage, then it's considered an erva irrespective of whether it's yours or her children. It's pretty clear that a child from an oinus relationship is considered your child. It relates back to this person. Likewise, a sister produced through such a relationship is considered nachaisei. So you can't suggest otherwise. Perhaps we're coming to exclude a sister produced through a lav situation. His father interacted with her isha, with whom he was not allowed to interact. A mamzeres. They had a child. That child is not considered your sister. Rashi says, because even from a lav, even an isha who involves lav, no kedushin can work there. It's not considered bas eishes aviv. It's not a type of isha that can have a marriage with his father. Amar papa, it's not true. Chayev alav and tafsabu kedushin. A lav situation, even though he can't proceed, he's not allowed to marry this isha, but if he proceeds and does kedushin, that kedushin takes hold. The chsiv, we have a pasuk to support this notion. We're speaking about a bachar, a firstborn who has twofold privilege. He gets double inheritance. And the pasuk says, "Kisiyen leishtei nashim." A man happens to be married to two women. Ha'achas ahuva. One is liked. Va'achas senua. The other one is disliked. Even the child from the senua, from the isha who's not liked, if he's a bachar, he gets double portion. Of course, why would the Torah need to tell us that a child of a woman who's not really liked by her husband won't lose his Yerusha privileges? What relevance does his relating to his wife have anything to do with the halacha of the Torah? Does the Torah reckon with whether or not this wife is loved or not? How would it affect, how would it impact the Yerusha halacha? Ella, rather, the pasuk means ahuva b'nesu'eha. Her marriage is praiseworthy, a proper marriage, a legitimate marriage. No lav, no isra involved. The word senua means senua b'nesu'eha. There's something inappropriate with the marriage. There's a lav involved. Does it work? Yes. But how does the Torah relate to these women, to these marriages? Whether it's ahuva or senua, with the words kisiyena, lashon of havai, lashon of kedushin, it's a valid kedushin. Clearly, even a chayav elavan can have kedushin. So we can't exclude a sister produced in this type of scenario. Okay, but there's one more option. Perhaps we're going to exclude a sister who was born through a kares relationship. Her father interacted with a isha, which involves kares. That child doesn't relate to him, and therefore is not considered your sister. Amarava. Amakrova, the pasuk says, a lashon which indicates that even this type of child is considered a daughter of that father, would be considered a sister with this fellow with whom she shares a father. Women that interact with a sister, whether daughter of your father or daughter of your mother. What does that mean? Whether she was born through a situation where they tell her father, you know what, hold on to this woman. She's suitable for you. A legitimate marriage, an appropriate marriage. Or means we tell the father, get rid of this Isha. This Isha is not meant to be married to you. There's no Kedushin here. Which basically means there's a curse involved. She's an erva. Even in this case, Omar Achmara, the pasuk refers to her as she's your sister. Apparently, even a sister produced in this type of circumstance is considered related to him, is considered his sister. Okay, if that's the case, let's include even a sister born through a shivcha or a goy. Ema. Why don't we say, Bein sha'omer loy avicha kayim, whether we tell the father, hold on to this woman. Bein sha'omer loy avicha yitzeh, we tell him, get rid of this woman. The Torah refers to as your sister. Let's include even a daughter born from a shivcha or a goy. She also relates to her father and her brother with whom she shares that father. No, you can't say that. Omakra. Bas Eisha Saficha. A sister is only one who is a daughter of your father's wife. And we learn Eisha Saficha. A woman who theoretically can marry your father. Although in this situation, perhaps she's a kares with her father, but this woman is an Isha Yisraelis who can theoretically marry her father. It's limited to somebody who theoretically her father can marry, as opposed to a sister born through a maidservant or a guy who can't, even theoretically can't marry her father. So this pasuk excludes this situation. The shivcha, and the previous pasuk is inclusive. Even Maledas Bayis, Maledas Chutz, even if it's an inappropriate relationship, the child relates to him and relates to that brother with whom she shares a father. So one pasuk is in, one pasuk is out. Umar Rois, based on what? You prefer this over that? One pasuk is inclusive, one pasuk is exclusive. How do you know which one goes to what? Why do we include Chayav Krisis and exclude the Shivcha and the Akum? Answers the Gemara. It's logical, it's rational to assume that the Chayav Krisis are meant to be included, because they're not as bad as the Shivcha or the Akum. Shekain tafsi b'hen kedushin la'alma, because this isha, even though to her father is a chayav krisis, but to other people, she's an ordinary woman. She can have kedushin with Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda down the road. So this isha is a potential isha to somebody out there. And therefore, even though in this context it's a chayav krisis with her father, she fits the bill. This child is called bas eshes avich, as opposed to a shivcha, ayvedes kechavim. Nobody in the Jewish nation can have kedushin with this isha. Therefore, that child is not considered bas eshes avich. Adrabah. If anything, the other way around. Shivcha ayvedes kechavim, havli l'rabbis. We should prefer the shivcha, the akum. You know why? Because this very isha can theoretically marry her father. All she needs to do is become a ger. She does geras. She can marry even this particular fellow. That's something that the chayiv krisis can't do. Of course, if she'll get a ger, she converts, she becomes a different person. Not only does she get a new neshama, whole body changes. Some Sefer used to say that you can't bring a raya. Medically, you can't prove anything from the non-Jewish bodies because a Jewish body has kedusha. It's a different entity than a Goyish body. There's a word from Rosh Hashanah 5 of Mendelowitz. Ashreinu ma'atev chalkeinu, u'ma'noyim goreleinu, ma'yafa yishaseinu, used to say a Yid is unique and special on account of his neshama. On account of his guf, his holy guf that he inherited from his parents, from his ancestors, the Avos HaKadosh. So the guf changes. Of course, the Avedes Kechavim can become a ger and then become suitable for this fellow, but then she's a different person. But in her current state, as she stands right now, she's not right to anybody, to him or to his next door neighbor. So she's worse off than the chayiv krisis that can theoretically marry somebody else in the Jewish nation. And therefore we exclude the achoisai from a shivcha, from a akum, and include the achoisai from the chayav krisis, or the chayav lavin, or from a oinus. Now this whole discussion pertained to Rabbi Yehuda, because according to him, the pasuk B'She'eshes Avicha was an extra pasuk. But according to the Rabbanim, who applied that pasuk to teach us that achoisai can contain two possible isurim, sister and daughter of one's father's wife. Now the pasuk is unavailable to teach us that we're going to exclude a daughter, a sister, hailing from a shivcha, from a goy. How do they know to exclude this type of situation? And if his father interacted with a shivcha or a goy, that child is not considered his child, nor is it considered a sister to this fellow with whom she shares his father, because the mother is the primary determinant. And if the mother is a goy, the child's a goy. How do they know this concept? Answers the Gemara. They learn from the pasuk in Paras Mishpatim. The maidservant's children belong to her master. We ignore the fact that the father was Jewish. So irrespective of who the father was, the children relate to the mother and back to the master. They're goyim. For Rabbi Yehuda, why does he need two psukim? One Erebas B'She'eshes Avicha, and now we have another pasuk. Isha Yiladea Tiladenea. Answer is Chad B'Shivcha, V'Chad B'Vedes Kechavim. One for the Shivcha, one for the Goy. Tzricha, they're both needed. Each one contains an element that the other one doesn't, and you couldn't learn one from the other. The Yashmina Shivcha. If only for Shivcha, I would say Mishum De'en Lo Chayis. Shivcha doesn't have any lineage. Rashi brings the famous pasuk where Avram tells Yishmael, he says, Shvu lochem im achamor, that the Eved is considered like a chamor. So a Shivcha and Eved have no lineage, and therefore they don't relate. Their children don't relate back to the father who's Jewish. But when a guy is born, there is some sort of yichus. Rashi brings a pasuk in Lachem Beis, Hadrimoin ben Tavrimoin. There's some sort of yichus there. So perhaps his child, which was born from a Goyish mother, is considered his child. Perhaps it's not going to be included in this halach. So you need a pasuk for Goy also. If only for Goy, I'll say, yeah, over there, the child born from a Goyish mother doesn't relate back to him because there's no connection. That child has no mitzvahs. But a child of a shivcha who is obligated in certain mitzvahs, perhaps there is a certain relation there. It's considered his child. It identifies back to the father, identifies with the brother. Tzricha, that's why we need a pasuk for both, for shivcha and avedus kechavim. The mother is who determines. The child doesn't relate back to the Jewish father or to the Jewish brother. V'Rabbanan. Now let's go back to Rabbanan. We're short a pasuk because Ashkan Shivcha. We have a pasuk which discusses Shivcha, right? Ha'isha, Hiladea, Tiladenea. What about a Goyish child? How do we know that a child born from a non-Jewish mother is not identified as a Jew despite the fact that her father was Jewish? Perhaps we can learn from Shivcha. Only equate the two. You can't. Hanu, Mitzrach, Tzrich. You need a pasuk for either one. Each one needs its own separate pasuk, as we just explained. You can't compare the two things. How do we know that this concept holds true about the son of a non-Jewish mother? Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. We have another pasuk for this. Amakra. The Torah warns against intermarriage and says, look, don't allow your son to marry their daughters. Don't allow your daughters to marry their sons. And on this part, your daughter marrying their sons, the pasuk says, you know why? Ki yaser es bincha me'acharai. Because that non-Jewish father will now take your son, basically your grandson, your daughter's son, who's Jewish, and lead him astray, take him away from Hashem. Clearly, the Torah is only concerned about that non-Jewish father taking your daughter's son away from Yiddishkeit because he identifies as Jewish. He's classified as Yisrael. But in the reverse, if it's your son interacting with a non-Jewish woman, that child identifies as non-Jewish. So we learn Bincha Yisrael is Kari Bincha. Your child, basically your grandchild, born from a Jewish mother, is considered your son. Because mother is who determines. As opposed to a child, a grandchild born from a non-Jewish mother. He doesn't identify with you, with a Jewish grandfather. Elabana, she's the one that determines his yichus. Ravina learns from here, Shma Mina, Ben Bitcha Ba Mina Ebed Kechavim, a grandchild born from a non-Jewish father and a Jewish mother, Kari Bincha. He identifies with you, he's called Jewish. Bottom line is, we see from here that the mother is the primary determinant, she's the determinant factor, and if the child was born from a non-Jewish mother, he is not a Yisrael. Let's go into Ravina's statement. He says, even if the father is a guy, the child born from a Jewish mother is considered a Jew. Does Ravina really mean to say that Oived Kechavim ve'Eved Habal Bas Yisrael without kosher, a child born from a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish father is considered perfectly fine and can marry even a kohen? Is unaffected by the father? Is that what he meant? No. Not necessarily. Nehida mamzer lehabi. Certainly he's not a mamzer, but kosher nam lehabi. Perhaps he's not a kosher, he's in limbo. He's not perfectly kosher. Yisrael pasal mikri. He's considered a tainted Yisrael and cannot marry a kohen. Okay, that's a side point. One more kasha we have. You learn from the pasuk of Ki Yoser es bincha me'acharai that it all depends on the mother. So if it's a Jewish mother, he's Jewish. A non-Jewish mother, then he's not a Yisrael. Hai b'shiva umma is ksiv. But you see, this pasuk is speaking about the 7 primary nations which whom the Israelim encountered when they entered Israel, who were really infatuated with Avodah Zarah. So perhaps there's room for distinction. By the Shuba Umais, we say, well, the mother carries away the child. She affects the child and he's considered non-Jewish because of their steadfast commitment to Avodah Zarah. But how would you know to apply it to other nations around the world? Rashi brings the Gemara in Chulin that the Oivdei Kechavim, 5 lines from the bottom, he says, Oivdei Kechavim shebechutz la'aretz lav Oivdei Kechavim him. You know, the ones in Chutz La'aretz, they don't really understand what's going on. They just keep the traditions going. They keep the minhagim, they keep the holidays and the ceremonies, but they're not really idol worshippers to the true extent. So perhaps they don't have this ability, this power to affect their child. So even if it's a non-Jewish mother, perhaps the child identifies as Jewish. How would you know to include them? Ki Yasser. The extra words Ki Yasser is L'Rabbis Kol Mesirim, is including all those Goyim who lead the children astray. They all affect their children. Hanich Rabbi Shimon. This works according to Rabbi Shimon, the Darish Tam of the Krah, because typically Rabbi Shimon focuses and expounds on the reason for a mitzvah. Even if the pasuk doesn't actually state the reason, Rabbi Shimon would explore the reason for the mitzvah and base halachos on that rationale. Rashi brings the Gemara in Mitzvah about taking a mashkin. You're not meant to take a mashkin, a collateral from an almana, from a widow. And Rabbi Shimon says, you know why? Because if she's poor and you have to give it back to her every night for personal use, that's the halacha, then you're generating inappropriate rumors about inappropriate behavior by coming back to her night after night. So that's the reason behind the halacha, and therefore he says, Rabbi Shimon, if she's an ashira, if she's self-sufficient, she doesn't need this beggar, this collateral to be returned to her on a nightly basis. There's no concern about taking it from her. This Rabbi Shimon's chiddush. He takes on the meaning, takes on the according to Rabbi Shimon, the tam, the reason, the rationale behind the mitzvah is incorporated in the structure of the mitzvah. So according to Rabbi Shimon, even without the words ki yaser es bincha, I would understand. I would on my own present the reason why intermarriage is to be avoided, because our children will be led astray. There's no need for the pasuk to add the words ki yaser. It's common sense. The fact that the Torah adds it is a ribuy. And indeed it's going to include all the other nations as well, as we explained. But according to the Rabbanon, so again, Hanich Rabbi Shimon the Darish Tam of the Krah, this works according to Rabbi Shimon, who expounds on the reason for the halacha. So we have extra words here. Unnecessary phrase, Kav Ki Yasser, which is Merabah all the other nations. El Rabbanon Menalu. According to Rabbanon, we never explore the reason for the mitzvah on our own. Therefore, the Torah has to explain it. Ki Yasser. The reason why I'm not allowing this intermarriage is because they're leading your children astray. And perhaps the Torah is actually telling you this is restricted and limited to the Shiva Ummos, who in fact are committed, totally committed to idol worship, and will have that effect on your children. What about other nations? We don't know. Perhaps it won't apply to other nations. According to Rabban, how do we know to include other nations as well? And says the Gemara, because this Madama happens to be Rabbi Shimon. Man Tana the Paul Gleder Rabbi Yehuda. Actually, who's the Tana who disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda? Meaning, who are the Rabbanon in this brisa who we're speaking about here? Rabbi Shimon. It's Rabbi Shimon. Okay, so according to Rabbi Shimon, we're taken care of. We include all the other Goyim because of the Ribu. So in conclusion, there's an erva called Achaisai. According to the Rabbanon, Achaisai can theoretically entail 2 Yisurim, 1 sister. Number 2, she's also Bas Eshes Avicha. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's limited to Achaisai. Bas Eshes Avicha, that's coming to tell you that if this sister was born to an Isha with whom your father can't even theoretically interact, she's a Shivcha. She's a Vedas Kechavim who can't have Kedushin. That child is not considered his child. It doesn't relate back to that father, because the mother determines her identity, and likewise, it doesn't relate to this brother with whom she shares his father. So this concept that mother determines mother establishes yichus, applies to shivcha and to avedis kechavim. We have psukim for both. The Rabbanan as well hold of this concept, and they have their psukim that in halacha, mother determines and not the father. Continues the Mishnah. Mi shekidesh achas mishtei achayis. Suppose Reuven approached two sisters and did kedushin to one of them. He's not sure which one he was mekadosh. Ve'ein hideya ezemen mekidesh. He's not sure which one. Rashi explains there was a shliach who represented them both. He did a kedushin on one. He didn't really specify which one. Actually, the Gemara will tell us at the point of kedushin he knew, but then there was some sort of confusion. So he's not sure which one he was mekadosh, Rachel or Leah. What does he do? What's the solution? Nice and get lazu. If you get lazu, he does a double get to cover both options. Mace, let's say he passes away before he divorces. So what happens when it comes to Yibum? He left over one brother, Reuven. He does chalitza to either one. Sorry, to both. To cover both options. Now let's just point out, Rashi points this out. Let's see it in Rashi, 2 lines from the top. Why does the brother do chalitza to both? Why can't he marry one of them? He's not sure which one is the Yevamos. He doesn't know which one is the sister-in-law. So he has to do chalitza to both. Why can't he be chalitz to Rachel and be miyabim Leah? One is not allowed to marry the sister of his chalutza. So that's out. Once he does chalitza to one, he can't do yibum to the other. There's a chance that Rachel was really the chalutza and Leah is the sister of the chalutza. What about the other way around? Why can't he do yibum first? He can't do yibum to Rachel and chalitza to Leah. Maybe Rachel is not really his property, his true yevama. She's a sister of his yevama Leah. And by marrying Rachel, in fact, he's marrying the sister of the Yevama who is zakuk to him. That's a problem. Because the Yevama who is bound to the Yavam is considered like sort of a semi-wife, and one can't marry his wife's sister. This concept of Achaisa Kukas is going to be the underlying and repetitive theme throughout the whole Mishnah. He has to keep away from any possibility, any chance of interacting with Achaisa Kukas. So again, we have a case where Reuven was mekadosh either Rachel or Leah. He passes away. His brother Reuven who do chalitza to both. Continues the Mishnah. Let's say he had two brothers, Rachel and Leah. Okay, now it's a bit easier. So echad chalitz, Reuven will do chalitza to Rachel, ve'echad meyabim, and Shimon will do yibum to Leah. Why? Because he's not marrying a chayis chalutz sasai, because he didn't do chalitza to Rachel. It was Reuven who did chalitza to Rachel. He didn't do chalitza to Rachel. And let's say really Rachel was the Yevama and Leah was not. So Leah should be the achayis kukasa, right? The sister of the Yevama who zakiked him. But once Reuven does chalitza to Rachel, he sort of removed the zika. That zika expires, and now Shimon is free to go marry Leah. Suppose they didn't ask a shayla. They just went ahead, they stepped in, and they both married. Reuven married Rachel, Shimon married Leah. We don't force them out. So even on the chance that he did something wrong, that he ended up marrying a chayisa kukasai, fine. So he did something wrong, but now it's too late. Once they both were miyavim, once they're both married, the zika is over, and he can just hold on to her. Okay, so we had one situation where Reuven was mekadosh either Rachel or Leah. We had two variations of that case. He died leaving over one brother or two brothers, and we explained what to do. Now we have a new case. Shnaim shekish shnei achayis. So we have Reuven and Shimon who got involved in this confusion. They were mekadosh de achayis. Reuven and Shimon were mekadosh Rachel and Leah. Zayin yedei ezei kiddush. He doesn't know who he was mekadosh. Zayin yedei ezei kiddush. He doesn't know who he was mekadosh. Zayin oishin shnei gittin. If zayin oishin shnei gittin, either one, each one gives a double get. Mesu, they both passed away. L'ze'ach. Each one had a lone brother. Ze choylitz l'shtein, v'ze choylitz l'shtein. So each one of these lone brothers have to do a double chalitza. Chalitza to Rachel and to Leah, and he does chalitza to Rachel and to Leah. What about l'ze'echad, l'ze'shtein? Both brothers passed away. One brother left over a lone brother, and the other fellow who passed away left over two brothers. Hayachid choylitz l'shtein. The lone brother has to give a double chalitza. We're not sure which one is the Yevama. He can't marry either one, because there's always a chance that she's a sister of my Yevama. So he has to do double chalitza. But Vashnayim, on the other side of the equation, we have two brothers standing. Here, we can arrange that there should be a Yibam, Echad Chalitz. So the first one here will make chalitza. He can't do Yibam just in case she's the sister of his Yevama, so he has to do chalitza. But once the first one does chalitza, the second one could do Yibam. Because if he hit the Rama, he got lucky, he hit the jackpot, great. If the first one was the Yevama, but once she has chalitza, she's out of the picture. She's no longer Zakuka, so now he can marry this Isha who's really a stranger. So suppose the two brothers here jumped in and married. Okay, they did. And we don't force them out. Even though there was possibly an Isser done, but once they married, the Zika is over, so each one can hold on to his wife. Here we have one final scenario. So we had two brothers. They were Makadosh Rachel and Leah. We're not sure which one was Makadosh whom. They passed away, and each one left over two brothers. We have Reuben and Shimon on this side, Levi and Yehuda on the other side. Now it's interesting. We could arrange for a situation where both women, Rachel and Leah, will have Yibam done to them. How? So we have Reuben standing on this side with Shimon. We have Levi and Yehuda on the other side. So Achav Shalzeh, let's say Reuben, will do chalitza to one of these women, to Rachel. V'achav Shalzeh chalitz la'achas. And on the other side of the picture, we have Levi and Yehuda. Levi will do chalitza to Leah. Achav Shalzeh, let's go back to the other side. So Shimon, who hadn't done anything, miyabim chalitza Shalzeh. He could be miyabim the chalitza of Levi on the other side, because she was addressed either way. If she's Levi's Yevama, she got chalitza from him. If she's my Yevama, then I can be miyabim her. Likewise, the other brother on the other side, Yehuda, miyabim chalitza Shalzeh. He can be miyabim Rachel, who got chalitza from Reuben on the other side of the picture. So basically, we're covering all possibilities, and actually ending up with a double yibum. So again, you had two brothers. One was Makadosh Rachel, one was Makadosh Leah. We're not sure who was Makadosh whom. They passed away, leaving behind four brothers. He left behind Reuben and Shimon, and he left behind Levi and Yehuda. So Reuben will do chalitza to one of the women, to Rachel, which will allow a brother on the other side to be miyabim her, because she's addressed. She's taken care of. All possibilities were, all options were addressed. If she's the Yevama of these brothers, then she got chalitza from one of them. If she's the Yevama of these brothers, she can marry one of them. And same thing to Leah. She gets chalitza from Levi, and then she can marry Shimon. Suppose Reuben and Shimon jumped in and did chalitza to both women. So even though both women got chalitza from Reuben and Shimon, they were covered from that side of the family. Levi and Yehuda can't go ahead and be miyabim both of them. Why? Because we're concerned that the first brother who will do first yibum is actually marrying the sister of his real yevama. Ella rather, echad chalitz, v'echad b'yabim. Levi will do chalitza and Yehuda will do yibum. Kadmu v'kansu ein matzin miyadam. If they jump into it and they both marry, you can't force them out. Now the Mishnah spoke about a fellow who's not sure who he was makadosh. Shema mino, we can learn from the Mishnah, Kiddushin she'en masurun labiyah, even a Kiddushin which can't lead to the next step, can't lead to interacting as married, because you're not sure who's your wife. Have a kedushin is still considered a proper kedushin? That's a chiddush, because really it's a machlekes. Abaye v'Rav and Maseches kedushin. Whether this type of undetermined and unknown kedushin has any validity. It would seem from the Mishnah that it does. You know what we're speaking about? Initially it was known who he was Mekadosh. And then there was some sort of mix-up and confusion. At the time of Kedushin it was known, so it's valid. The wording in the Mishnah indeed indicates as such. He doesn't know who he was Mekadosh. It doesn't say it's unknown. Apparently it was known at a certain point in time. Shmamina. That's a raya from the Lashon HaMishnah. Asks the Gemara, what's the point of the Mishnah here? You're not sure who's your wife. You have to give both a get. Isn't that common sense? Isn't that obvious? Sefer Tzrichle. The point is for the next part of the Mishnah, which discusses Yibum halachis. Meis, he passed away. V'layach echad, leaving behind one brother. Chalitz shtein, has to do a double chalitz. Hayla shnaim, he left behind two brothers. Echad chalitz v'echad b'yabim. One does chalitz, one does yibum. And the point is, you have to follow this order. Dafka michlatz v'hadar yibumi. Specifically in this order. Chalitza and then yibum. Aval yibumi b'reisha loy. You can't start with yibum. You know why? As we explained, the kapaga b'chaysik ukasa, because there's a concern that he might be encountering the sister of his Yevamos who's bound to him, which is problematic. It's like the sister of your wife. So if it's chalitza and then yibum, that's okay, because chalitza removes any zika from this isha, leaving the other one free. That's the Chiddush HaMishnah. Do it in this order only. We moved on to the next case in the Mishnah, where we had two brothers who ran into this confusion. Shnaim shekitru shtei achayos. Once again, the same kasha. Shmamina, we seem to learn from the Mishnah that this type of kedushin, she'ein mesurin l'biyah, have a kedushin, even a kedushin that can't lead to more, is a kedushin, because the whole thing was just a matter of confusion from beginning to end. No. Hachanami keshehukru. Here as well, we're speaking that it was known at a certain point and then it got confused. The wording in the Mishnah indicates as such. He doesn't know who he was Mekadosh, rather than it was unknown. Apparently it was known at a certain point. Shmami, no, it's pretty clear. Now what's the chiddush of this part of the Mishnah? Do you have to give all kinds of divorce? Of course, you have to cover all the options. So what's the chiddush? Sefer Tzrichle, the chiddush is for the next part, where we discussed chalitza and yibum. Mesu, both of these brothers pass away. He left behind one brother. He left behind two brothers. The lone brother will do chalitza to both. And the other side, the two brothers there, one will do chalitza, and the other one will follow with yibum. Pshita, isn't this an obvious halacha? Hainu reisha. It's a duplicate pretty much of the halacha and the reisha. What's the additional chiddush here? There is a chiddush. Well, the tema, perhaps I would think, ligzar trei atuchad. You see over here we have a pretty broad equation. We have one lone fellow on one side of the picture, we have two brothers on the other side, and the lone fellow has to do chalitza to both, whereas the other brothers can do chalitza and yibum amongst themselves. Now, perhaps if we allow that to happen, maybe the loner will do the same thing, will do chalitza and yibum, and of course he can't do that, because once he does chalitza to one, he can't do yibum to the other, as we explained in the Mishnah, because he's marrying, the chance that he's marrying achayis chalutza. So if we allow this to happen by two, perhaps it's going to create confusion and lead us to apply the same formula to the lone fellow, which of course is problematic. The chiddush is we're not confused. Chiddush is we're not concerned. But we have to point out that these two fellows, who will divide the tasks among themselves, he'll do chalitza and he'll do yibum, it has to follow that order, dafka. First chalitza by one brother, and then, let me just backtrack. This that we say, that the lone fellow will do chalitza to both, and then the other two can divide amongst themselves. It has to follow that formula, that order. But dafka mechlitz v'hada yibumi. It only works if the single fellow will do chalitza to both, and then the other two on the other side of the family will do their thing. Aval yibumi b'reisha loy, but they can't just go ahead and do the yibum before this single fellow does chalitza to both brothers. So we have these two brothers here. One will do chalitza, one will do yibum before the other fellow on the other side did chalitza to both. He can't do that. You know why? Loy, that doesn't work. Because they don't know who these women are. Maybe the one that he's doing yibum to is really the other fellow, the lone brother's Yevama. In which case he's marrying a Yevama who's unsuitable for him. The kapaga be Yevama b'leshuk. We have a Yevama marrying a stranger. So the only way to cover for that concern is by having the single brother do chalitza to both, and then on the other side we have the two brothers, the two surviving brothers, dividing their tasks with chalitza followed by yibum. In the final case, we have two brothers left behind on either side of the equation. So these two brothers who did the Safek Kedushin, they passed away, and each one left behind two brothers. Two brothers on this side, two brothers on that side. And the Mishnah explains how they tended the situation. Hasulamli, what's the point of repeating this type of scenario? Hainuhach, isn't this exact replica? It pretty much follows the same principles and formulas as the previous halachas. Hainuhach. Ma'odatema, perhaps there's room for concern. Ligzar dilma miyabim b'lei chalitza. Perhaps in this case, as Rashi explains for us, in this case where we pretty much arrange that both Rachel and Leah will have a yibum done to them. Right? We cross it over, he does chalitza, and the other fellow does yibum, he does yibum, the other fellow. We work it out that all will have a yibum done to them. So perhaps in this case, we might skip over the chalitza ceremony altogether. We'll just go straight to the yibum. You see, Mimel in the previous cases where we have Rachel and Leah, and only one will have yibum. One will have chalitza, one will have yibum. So as Rashi explains, we're isik b'chalitza, we're involved in chalitza. One of them will have to only have chalitza. So that will keep us conscious of the fact that we have to do chalitza. We're not going to skip over the chalitza. But in this case, we're ultimately both Rachel and Leah will have yibum done to them. Perhaps that might lead us to be negligent and just skip over the chalitza altogether. Ligzar dilma miyabim b'lei chalitza. Kamash Malon, the chiddush is we're not concerned. Okay, so we concluded the whole Mishnah with all the halachas, all different cases. We have a kash. Here comes a kash. In our Mishnah we learn that although there's a proper protocol to follow, proper procedure, what you meant to do, when you meant to do it, in what order, but b'di'evad, the Mishnah says, if they jump into things prematurely, kadmu v'kinsu, okay, b'di'evad, we don't force them out. Ma'ishna madasnan, why is this different than the Mishnah which teaches us as follows? Arba achnia, 4 brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Shnai men, nesun shtei achayis. Reuven and Shimon are married to 2 sisters. Umeisu nesun achayis. They both passed away, leaving behind 2 Yevamos who are actually sisters, but they're both certainly Yevamos. Leah comes from Shimon, and Rachel comes from Reuven. So what does Levi do? What does Yehuda do? They can't do Yibam, because either one is a sister of his Yevama. They need chalitza without Yibam. The question is why? Why can't we just do chalitza to one, and by doing so we are removing her zika, we are sort of removing her from the Yibum equation, we're taking her off the table, off the scene, allowing the remaining Yevama to be considered an ordinary Yevama. She's no longer Achay Sukukasai. The zika is gone from her sister. Why is this different in our Mishnah, where we seem to work with that concept that once you remove the zika is gone and allows her sister to marry? A big difference. You see, in the case of the Mishnah we just mentioned, both women were really Yevamos. There was no suffix involved. They were both widows. Now, halacha is, as Rashi explains, once a Yevama is deemed unsuitable for a Yivam, it remains with her forever. It stigmatizes her, so to speak, forever. She becomes an erva. She's treated like a regular sister-in-law. And marriage with her is never allowed. So since at any given point in time she was considered usher, be it because she was a chaysa kasa, whatever it is, that's a permanent state. It's a permanent halacha. And therefore, even if the zika was then removed from her sister, it doesn't benefit her surviving, the remaining sister. It doesn't benefit her whatsoever. Once usher, always usher. Hachi hashta. How could you compare? Hasam, in that case, ilam adam yesh zika, whether the concern is because of zika, right? It remains with her forever. Ilam adam amar, according to the other shita, that doesn't hold of the zika concern. Rather, he says the reason why you can't. One brother, we have Levi and Yehuda, two brothers who are faced with two Yevamos, Rachel and Leah. The reason why Levi can't be Miyab and Rachel, leaving Leah for Yehuda, is because Asur Levato Mitzvah Yevamin, because we're concerned that perhaps after Levi is Miyab and Rachel, Yehuda will pass away, leaving Leah stranded, because now she's a sister of Levi's wife Rachel. So in effect, you're bringing about a bittul of Mitzvah Yibam. Therefore, we don't allow Yibam whatsoever. We require Chalitza. So it's a different approach to the Mishnah, which we actually discussed back in Daf Yud Ches. In any case, for whatever reason, Yibum is not an option. It remains not an option forever. She becomes the asr for Yibum. Ilum adam asr levato mitzvah zivam, asr levato mitzvah zivam. Bottom line is, if a Yivama was considered not roi for Yibum, at any certain point in time, she remains that way forever. Hach, as opposed to our case, there was a suffix. We have Rachel and we have Leah. We're not sure which one is the Yevam, which one isn't. Only one of them is. In this case, this rationale would not apply whatsoever. Sure, l'chatchila, he shouldn't approach Rachel and do Yivam, because maybe Leah is the real Yevama, which pretty much makes Rachel the sister of his Zakuka. So he's not allowed to do it. But should he proceed and do it? Right? Should the brothers proceed and do Yibam? Marry both Rachel and Leah. What happened now? Once they married both, the Zika disappears. Zika means she's bound, she's meant, she's awaiting Yibam. It's over, Yibam was done. Right? So let's speculate that Rachel was the real Yevama. Okay? Making Leah the Achayse Kuka, and off limits for time being. But now that Rachel was married, they both jumped in and married. One married Rachel, one married Leah. Once Rachel is taken in, her Zika status dissipates, making Leah, relieving Leah of the title of Achayse Kuka. So now that Rachel was married and Shimon was married, Rachel was married to Reuven and Leah married to Shimon. They both jumped in and married. They hold on to them because Leah is no longer considered Achayse Kukosai. Rachel was already married. She's not a Zakuka. Now the fact that Leah was considered, at a certain point in time, she was considered Achayse Zakuka, doesn't make her Asa forever. Because, think about it. We're working on the chance that Rachel was the real Yevam and Leah wasn't. Leah was just a strange woman, unrelated. No Yevam. She was never established to his brother. And only one of the two was his real wife. If Rachel was his real wife, and Leah was just a plain stranger. So it's true. Initially, nobody could marry Leah because we're concerned that Rachel is the real Yevam, and Leah is the Achayse Zakuka, which is off limits. But once they both jumped into things, he married Rachel, he married Leah. By marrying Rachel, in effect, he removes the concept of Zika, and Leah is no longer considered Achayse Kukasei. So the fellow who married Leah can hold on to Leah. She's not a chayzik ukasa. Well, then is she? A plain stranger. It's different than the case of the Abor Achan. Now both are really Yevamos, as we explained in the name of Rashi. A sister-in-law who's a Yevamo, who becomes Asar for whatever reason. If she's Asar for Yibam, she remains Asar forever. But it doesn't apply in our case. Because Leah, working on the chance that Rachel is the real Yevama, and Leah is the fake one. It could work the other way around too. Leah is the real. Just picking one of the two scenarios. It will apply to the other one. So in the case that Rachel is really Yevama, Leah was just a plain Isha, a stranger to the family. So sure, initially he can't marry Leah because she's perhaps the sister of his Yevama. But once Rachel is married and the concept of Zika expired, so the fellow who married Leah can hold on to Leah. Because she's a plain stranger. A, she's no longer a chayzik ukasai, and B, even though she was once asa because of a chayzik ukasai, but now that Zika disappeared, she's no longer a chayzik ukasai, and she's mutter. She's mutter because she's a plain stranger. The concept of once asa, always asa doesn't apply in this case. That only applies to a sister. She was never a sister. So you can't compare the two missions. Okay, one more piece of Gemara. So Mishnah says, if both brothers jump into it, it was inappropriate, but they did it, we don't force them out. Now here's the chiddush. You see, in the last case of the Mishnah, one of these women who they're marrying is really a chalutza. Right? There were two brothers who interacted with Rachel and Leah. We're not sure which one married whom. They both passed away. And each brother left behind a set of brothers. Okay, and one of these sets of brothers jumped in and married these two Yevamis after the other brothers on the other side did chalitza. So we know with certainty that there's somebody there who's a chalutza. She received a proper chalitza from the first set of brothers who did chalitza to both. One of those women were bound to them. One of those were the Yevamit on that side of the equation. The Mishnah says, if the next two brothers jump into things and do Yibam on both, we don't force them out. Here's a chiddush. Even if the second set of brothers who jumped in and married these two women, which we know there's a chalutza amongst them, even if these two brothers are kayhanim, we don't force them out. A kohen is not allowed to marry a chalutza. My time, why is that? Chalutza the rabbanon. Chalutza is only the rabbanon. V'safek chalutza lagaz rabbanon. Here it's a safek chalutza. We don't know which one is the chalutza. We don't know which one got real chalitza from the other brothers. They both got chalitza. We don't know which one was deserving of chalitza from the first set of brothers. We don't know which one was their sister-in-law. So since we can't pinpoint it, it's a safek. And as Rashi points out, maybe these two brothers, maybe they're doing proper yibum. We don't know which one is the real yivam, which one is really belonging. So we don't know what's going on, and we just leave it. The safek chalutza lagaz rabbanon. If it's safek chalitza, we just leave it as is. The chalutza the rabbanoni. Chalutza is only the rabbanon. Vatani, we have a brayso which seems to say that's minat Torah. A kohen can't marry a grusha, a divorcee. Ain't there a grusha? Perhaps only a grusha. Chalutza manayim. What about a chalutza? The extra word ve'isha is telling you that even an isha who experienced chalitza can't marry a kohen. It's daraisa, it's not rabban. And says the Gemara midrabban, who really it's midrabban. Ukra, although we have a pasuk asmach the balmu, just serving as a remez, as a support to the din rabbanon. And since it's only rabbanon, when it's a suffix, especially when it involves a chance of a mitzvah, we leave it. We allow it to stay put. Okay, let's do a brief chazara. We learned about the erva of achaysoi. Achayis is only if it's from an Isha Yisraelis, as opposed to if his father interacted with a Shifcha or a Goy. Mother determines the status of the offspring, in which case it relates back to the mother, it's not considered his child, and likewise, she's not considered the sister of this fellow with whom she shares a father, because father is not part of the equation. We have psukim for Shifcha, for Goy, whether according to Rabban, according to Rabbi Yehuda. We continue with the Mishnah where there was a Safek Kedushin. We had two parts to the Mishnah. one fellow was Makalish, either Rachel or Leah. He passed away, left behind either one brother or two brothers. We have two variations in that first part of the Mishnah. We have the second part of the Mishnah where two fellows were Makalish and they're not sure who they were Makalish. We have three possible scenarios in that circumstance. Either each fellow left behind only one brother, or he left behind one and the other fellow left behind two, or in the final case, each brother left behind two surviving brothers. And the point is, we're trying to avoid any Yisurim, trying to avoid Achais Chalutza and Achais Zekuka. But they jump into it, Kadbu V'Kinsu, we don't force them out. And we concluded with the din of Safek Chalutza, which is Mutter, because the Isser to a Kohen is only Midrabban. All the best to you and much, much Hatzlach.